Exclusive contract with Feilu Novel Network Novel. Siheyuan. Starting from May 1st, escape from 49 cities, Li Tianming traveled to the world of courtyard houses in May 1st, unexpectedly assisting the Military Control Commission in intercepting enemy agents. He was arranged to live in a courtyard house. After checking in, I found out that it was actually the infamous number 95 Nanluogu Lane, with birds all over the courtyard. Just this year, Qin Huairu has not yet moved into a courtyard house, and the street office has not been established yet. The three masters are not yet masters, but the beasts are still those beasts. Faced with the exclusion of birds, Li Tianming chose to report to the police directly sending Jia Zhang to prison. He only lived a few years of peaceful life. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. Escape to the 49 cities. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In May 1st, in the 49th city, the cold winter wind blew with a whirring sound. At this moment, a chase scene is taking place in the 49 cities. A man in a black Zhongshan suit was frantically fleeing, with over a dozen officers holding long guns and wearing military uniforms behind him. Stop. Don't run. Comrades in front, quickly dodge. The streets of the 49th city are also bustling with people, and coupled with the man constantly fleeing into the alley, the soldiers chasing behind have not opened fire for a long time. At this moment, Li Tianming was dragging his tired body, constantly searching for leftover food in the alleys of the 49 cities. As a traveler, Li Tianming never imagined that his situation would be so tragic. When he first started wearing more and more clothes, his hometown suffered from a rare drought and had no harvest for several years. The entire village had to start a mass exodus. And with this escape, Li Tianming fled directly to the 49th city. He originally wanted to seek help from the rescue station in 49 cities, but unexpectedly, there were too many people fleeing. The rescue station was already overcrowded and had no ability to help him. Seeing that he couldn't find anything to eat today, Li Tianming felt a bit helpless in his eyes. I'll have to starve for another day. Fortunately, there is also a system that is standard for travelers. With a movement of thought, what catches the eye is an independent space. This space is not large, only about a dozen square meters, and now it is all occupied by a spring water. Taking out a basin of spring water from the space and delivering it to the entrance, Li Tianming's mental condition improved a lot. However, this thing could only barely sustain himself and could not fill his stomach. And he himself cannot enter the space. Now he doesn't even have a place to live, and he has been fleeing all the way. If there were no Lingquan to drink, he would probably have died on the road long ago. Nevertheless, his body was still on the verge of collapse. Slowly walking to the corner, just as Li Tianming was about to try his luck at the rescue station, he heard a thud. The tremendous impact knocked Li Tianming unconscious, who was almost starving. I vaguely saw a group of people standing in front of me, rushing frantically towards me. It's him, catch him. Comrade, are you okay? Comrade, please persevere and have someone take him to the hospital quickly. Li Tianming, who was in a daze, felt a jolt in his body and then fell asleep in a daze. After an unknown amount of time, when Li Tianming opened his eyes again, he saw gray and white walls in front of him, and white bedding on his body. Seeing everything around him, Li Tianming realized that he had been taken to the hospital. Thinking of this, he immediately struggled and wanted to sit up quickly. The cost of the hospital is far beyond what he can afford. In this era, the emphasis is on severe punishment for minor offenses. If one cannot afford medical expenses, it is not impossible to get shot directly. Seemingly sensing Li Tianming's struggle, the soldier standing guard at the door immediately pushed the door open and walked in. Comrade, you're awake. Li Tianming fixed his gaze and saw the opponent dressed in a green military uniform, standing tall and imposing. And behind him was a long spear, shining brightly. Upon seeing the soldier, Li Tianming quickly said, "I'm sorry, comrade. It was not my intention not to refuse. I'm leaving now." After finishing speaking, he struggled to get out of bed, but was quickly stopped by the other party. I respectfully saluted him and said with a smile, "Comrade, please don't be nervous. Let me introduce myself. I am Vice Commander of the Garrison Command of the Military Control Commission, Comrade Zhou Zhang. Thank you for helping us capture enemy spies. I don't know what this comrade should be called. Garrison Area. Deputy Platoon Leader." Hearing these names made Li Tianming's heart churn. At the same time, he also understood that the other party's words were soft and prickly. If he could not explain his identity in detail, he would probably become the object of suspicion from the other party. I saw Li Tianming slowly walking down from the bed, standing up and giving a serious salute to the other party, then saying, "Report to the leader, my name is Li Tianming, 18 years old, from Hebei province. There was a famine at home, and both of my parents had passed away, so I fled to the 49th city. However, I'm sorry, I cannot provide valid identification documents. After all, as you know, it is already very difficult to live from Hebei province to the 49th city." Seeing that the other party had truthfully confessed their identity, Zhou Zhang nodded and patted his shoulder, saying, "Comrade Li Tianming, I really appreciate your sincerity. As for the identity certificate, it's not necessary. When you were unconscious, we had already conducted a body search on you. Please don't take it lightly." Li Tianming nodded. Now that various countries have just evacuated from the 49 cities, there are still a lot of remaining enemy special forces in the country. Even though Li Tianming just assisted the other party in capturing the enemy special forces, who can know if he is an accomplice? So when it comes to identity screening, the members of the Military Control Commission are also particularly concerned. Since I am now clear-headed, I will bid farewell first. After all, Chief, as you know, I have no money on me and can't afford to stay in the hospital. Li Tianming was about to go out when he saw Zhou Zhang directly reach out and stop him, saying, "Wait, wait. According to common sense, your assistance in apprehending enemy spies should be rewarded. However, the situation is special now, and the company's funds are also very limited. I just heard that you also fled to 49 cities, so you probably don't have a place to live yet. How about this? I'll have someone arrange a place for you to stay in 49 cities for now." Zhou Zhang also greatly appreciated the other party, and there are not many young people like him now. By doing so, he also wanted to give the other party a chance. He only hoped that Li Tianming would not be the short-sighted person who was greedy for temporary enjoyment. When Li Tianming heard the other person's words, a glimmer of light flashed in his eyes. Although the property rights of the house were not his own now, what else could he, as a person who came to flee, expect? Upon seeing this, Li Tianming bowed slightly and said, "Thank you very much for Captain Zhou's life-saving kindness." Zhou Zhang saw him perform such a great courtesy and quickly helped him up. His eyes were already narrowed with a smile, and such a humble young man was rare. "At dawn, rest assured here. Once you have rested, I will have someone take you to find an unused courtyard for you to stay in. Qinming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 2. Arrangements of the Military Control Commission. You are listening at novel.Audio. Seeing the other party about to leave, Li Tianming quickly jumped a few times, indicating that his body was unharmed. "Captain Zhou, I don't think you need to trouble yourself. You see, my body has also almost recovered. If I can't find a suitable place to stay temporarily, I'll just stay outside for a few days without wasting my hospitalization expenses." Seeing that the other party was truly like this, Zhou Zhang couldn't resist him and shouted at the door, "Xiao Wang." With Zhou Zhang's voice, a young face immediately appeared. Immediately after, Zhou Zhang continued, I heard that there are still many courtyard houses in the East City that are idle. You can go back to the Military Management Committee to obtain a certificate and bring Comrade Li Tianming to move in. The main task of the 49 cities currently under the administration of the Military Control Commission is to eliminate all remaining enemies, eliminate enemy spies lurking within the 49 cities, and restore and maintain normal business order. For some livelihood issues, they are not indifferent, but simply have no time to be distracted. Faced with the vast majority of refugees flooding into the 49 cities, the Military Control Commission will still hand them over to the rescue station for processing, and the rescue station will arrange accommodation for them. Until the end of 52, the Military Management Commission withdrew from the sub-district office and established, many people still fled from famine to Siheyuan City. It was not until January 58 that the regulations on household registration management were promulgated and the registered residence registration management was strengthened that the modern registered residence system was completely formed, so now there are still many vacant rooms in various quadrangles. Yes. After receiving Zhou Zhang's instructions, the young soldier turned around with a smile on his face and said, "Comrade, please come with me." Li Tianming was about to follow him out when he was stopped by Zhou Zhang. Zhou Zhang took out 100,000 yuan from his pocket and handed it to Li Tianming. "The doctor has just checked for you. Although all your physical indicators are normal, the doctor said that your blood sugar is low, which should be due to long-term hunger. With this money, at least you need to persevere until you find a job." Li Tianming was about to refuse when he heard the other party continue saying, "You must not refuse. This is my personal intention, and it has nothing to do with the Military Control Commission. If the enemy agents escape, it will bring about many troubles." Upon hearing Zhou Zhang's words, Li Tianming finally took the money. "Comrade Li Tianming, please come with me. Number 95 Nanluogu Lane, I remember there are still vacant rooms here. Although the house is not big, only about 20.30 square meters, it's enough for you to live alone." Comrades from the Military Control Commission took Li Tianming to the place. Li Tianming looked at the brand new house number and muttered thoughtfully, "Number 95 Nanluogu Lane." Suddenly, he thought to himself, "Isn't this the courtyard where the courtyard full of emotions is located in the TV drama? What's wrong? Comrade Li Tianming, do you have any objections to this? Otherwise, I'll help you find a new place to live." Li Tianming was personally arranged by Zhou Zhang, and the members of the Military Control Commission naturally dared not neglect him. However, it has already been registered with the Military Control Commission just now, and it would be troublesome to go back if you want to make changes. Li Tianming said with a smile on his face. "Don't bother, comrade. It's nice to live here." Upon hearing someone speaking at the door, Yan Bugue, who lived in the front yard, carrying an enamel jar, he walked out. When Li Tianming saw someone, wearing a gray felt hat and a pair of round framed glasses, he was thin and weak. He could tell at a glance that this was Yan Bugue and teacher Yan in the front yard. However, compared to the plot of around 65 years in TV dramas, the current teacher Yan is only 30.7 or 8 years old, with less wrinkles on his face and delicate and tight skin. At first glance, he is a cultured person. "Comrade, may I ask who you're looking for?" Yan Bugue changed his previous habit of taking advantage of small gains and asked with a stern expression when he saw that it was someone from the Military Control Commission who brought them over. This comrade fled from the province of Hebei, and after coordination by our Military Control Committee, we are now preparing to place him in your courtyard. "Do you have any objections?" said the person from the Military Control Committee with great enthusiasm. "Placed in our courtyard." Yan Bugue was noticeably stunned for a moment. He almost couldn't hold the enamel jar in his hand, but he still smiled and nodded repeatedly, "Please, please." Taking Li Tianming to the courtyard, he clapped his hands and called all the people in the courtyard over. The General Management Committee repeated Li Tianming's arrangement to everyone again, then he pointed to a house next to the Jia family in the courtyard and said, "Comrade Li Tianming, after all, you have escaped from the famine in Hebei province. Most of the good houses have been occupied, and there is only one vacant place in this courtyard. Don't think it's too small. Li Tianming had a surprised expression on his face, not realizing that he had become a neighbor with the Jia family. However, since it was obtained for free, he didn't say much and just nodded. Obey the leader's arrangements in everything. No, let this person get out of here. This is my Jia family's house. Seeing the people in the courtyard all agree, the military brother who brought Li Tianming over also nodded in satisfaction. However, at this moment, another discordant sound rang out. Looking up, I saw a middle-aged woman of about 40 years old, with her triangular eyes fixed on Li Tianming, wishing to devour him alive. It was Jia Zhang, who lived in the middle courtyard. As soon as the members of the Military Control Commission saw any discord, they quickly stepped forward and wanted to take direct action. However, when they saw another person rushing towards them, they quickly said, "Master Jun, this old lady doesn't know the rules. Please don't get angry. I'll discuss it with her later." The speaker was none other than Zhonghai, who gave a glance to the Jia family. Although the Jia family was grumbling, with Zhonghai's appeasement and the military brother's attempt to take action just now, he didn't dare to say anything more. "Okay, Comrade Li Tianming, you can settle down here with peace of mind. If you need anything, you can apply to our Military Control Commission. I want to see if anyone dares to come to you without knowing what's going on." Li Tianming was personally assigned a task by the company commander, so the military brother naturally dared not neglect it. His gaze swept around him, glaring angrily, clearly reminding the people in the courtyard. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 3. Inadequate use of farmland machinery. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I dare not. Don't worry, Junyi. We will definitely take good care of this little comrade named Li Tianming. After all, he is all from the same courtyard. Zhonghai smiled and quickly said. He lived in this courtyard for more than a decade, but due to his tendency to meddle in his own affairs, he gradually gained some fame in the courtyard. It is important not to offend the members of the Military Control Council just because of the Jia Zhang family. After the people from the Military Control Committee left, Li Tianming didn't say hello to these people and entered the room directly. These beasts didn't have many good people, I don't like it either. As long as I have a place to live, even if I work as a laborer in the city, relying on the system space, I will eventually have a bright future. The house is not very large, many places have already been covered in dust, there is not even a good bed in the room, and there is also an earthen kong used for making a fire, so one cannot sleep on the ground. I gave the house a simple cleaning. Modern Li Tianming was somewhat fortunate that Zhou Zheng had given him 100,000 yuan. Otherwise, he would not have been able to endure eating and drinking for a few days. At this point, Jia Zhang from the intermediate court had already arrived at Zhonghai's house. "Old Yi, what did you mean earlier? That house hasn't been inhabited for 2 or 3 years, and it should have belonged to my Jia family. Don't forget that Jia Dongxu is still your disciple. How can you face outsiders here? Besides, Jia Dongxu has also reached the age of marriage and is preparing to go on a blind date with him these days. If we get married, can Jia Dongxu still squeeze into the same house as me? I'm afraid these young couple are not comfortable doing something tonight. I'm hoping to pretend to be able to pass on the lineage of our Jia family. No, you can't take the people from the courtyard and drive out that person named Li Tianming for me now." The more Jia Zhang spoke, the more excited he became. In the end, he began to roll around directly. When he got up and saw Jia Zhang pouring sugar on the ground, he quickly helped him up with a bitter taste on his face. "Sigh, I'm talking about my sister-in-law. Didn't you see him just now? He was brought over by the Military Control Council. Who dares to touch him, let alone drive him out? If he can't eat or dress well in our courtyard, I'm afraid the Military Control Council won't spare us. Zhonghai is worthy of becoming a master in the courtyard later on, and can also be considered an old and refined person. He naturally knows in his heart which people can afford to offend and which ones cannot. Even though the street office was established later, Zhonghai still spent a lot of money on the director of the street office, which allowed him to be arrogant and domineering in the courtyard. However, now he is still under the management of the Military Control Commission, and the money is not so easy to use. What are you afraid of? What kind of relationship can a poor boy from out of town have with the Military Control Council? It's just that the Military Control Council saw him pitiful and arranged for him to live in our courtyard. I said, "Old Yi, why are you getting bolder as you get older? If we don't kick Li Tianming out this time, who will still obey you in the courtyard in the future?" Seeing that one plan failed, Jia Zhang came up with another plan and immediately began to provoke Zhonghai. Unfortunately, how could Zhonghai accept such a trick? However, after all, Jia Dongxu is still his disciple and the best choice for his retirement. Tomorrow's blind date is still of utmost importance. After pondering for a while, Zhonghai finally said, "Tomorrow, when the girl who is waiting for the blind date arrives, you can simply say that this house belongs to you and just lend it to Li Tianming for the time being." What should we do if the members of the Military Control Commission are to be found? Jia Zhang is not a fool either. As long as Zhonghai compromises, he is prepared to blame Zhonghai for all his crimes, so as not to cause trouble for himself by the Military Control Committee. Zhonghai frowned and then said, "In the backyard, isn't there a house next to the old lady's room that has been converted from a donkey pen? Just let Li Tianming live in the backyard later." Anyway, he wasn't kicked out of the courtyard, and the Military Control Committee wouldn't say anything. They are busy all day catching enemy spies and eliminating the enemy. How can they have any time to deal with Li Tianming's affairs? Okay, that's what you said. Upon hearing Zhonghai nod, the wrinkles on Jia Zhang's face almost burst into laughter, and he rushed home with a smile. As soon as Jia Zhang left, an old lady greeted him directly. The head of the family is a member of the Military Control Commission. Why bother offending others for Jia Dongxu's sake? Zhonghai waved his hand and looked at his stomach with a helpless expression on his face. When a woman saw the other person's gaze, she immediately understood and her face immediately darkened. They have been married for almost 20 years, but they never had a child by force. Even on the dry land, it has been almost 20 years and can still grow something to some extent. Even if there is still no harvest so far, it can only indicate that either the land is broken or the machinery for farming is broken. Regardless of the problem, the only issue facing them now is the issue of elderly care. I think Li Tianming, the new child, is also a good choice for retirement. Besides, he has also escaped from famine and has no father or mother. He looks more suitable than Jia Dongxu alone. Aunt continued to inquire. As both women, she really couldn't stand the way Jia and Zhang rolled around, and didn't really like Jia Dongxu, but it was just due to retirement issues, forced by helplessness. Zhonghai shook his head. Although Li Tianming has no father or mother, we don't know how his temperament is. It's impossible to talk about whether we are filial or not. What's more important is that I see his hunched appearance and whether he can survive or not. If Li Tianming dies, we will lose a lot, but he's a young man who just escaped from famine. If he can really survive, you can also help with things like washing clothes and cleaning. It's not a bad thing to have a good impression of us. Zhonghai has already considered almost all possibilities to the extreme, and only those who are useful to him will lend a helping hand. The old lady nodded and went to the room to be busy. Dad, the person from the Military Control Commission just came over. Aren't you going to say hello? In the backyard, Lu Guangtian, who had just turned 7 or 8 years old, hurriedly ran back from the middle courtyard and said to a round man. The people from the Military Control Commission are here. Oh, why didn't you inform me earlier, kid? Lu Haizhong lay on the chair, with an expression of enjoyment on his face. As soon as he heard that someone from the Military Control Commission had come over, he quickly got up and ran out. Only Lu Guangtian remained behind and said, "Dad, your shoes, shoes. Qinming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 4. System Activation, Lingquan Space. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the bangs without shoes, I ran across the Lotus Gate and arrived at the courtyard. At this moment, he arched his body and had already put on a greedy expression on his face. Looking around, he couldn't see a figure from the Military Control Committee. Then he lowered his head and looked seriously at the silly pillar washing dishes in the courtyard, saying, "Pillar, where's Junyi?" The silly pillar squatting in the courtyard washing dishes couldn't help but laugh when he saw the change in expression on Lu Haizhong's face. "I haven't seen it yet, Master Lu. You're still a chameleon." Lu Haizhong's face turned pale with anger and he said, "Don't talk nonsense, tell me the people from the Military Control Commission." Unlike Zhonghai, who usually likes to meddle in his own affairs, Lu Haizhong chooses to appear more openly in front of the members of the Military Control Committee, trying to leave a good impression in their hearts, and preferably being able to secure a position. Silly Zhu grinned. "The Military Control Commission arranged for a new person to be brought into our compound today, and the person in charge of the Military Control Commission left." Newcomer. Lu Haizhong hesitated for a moment, then pushed the door open and walked in without much hesitation. Nowadays, most of them are rescue stations, and they can directly arrange for the Military Control Committee to come forward and arrange for people to live in the courtyard. The identity can be simple, and if one can hold on to the other's thigh, it will be more developed. As soon as he entered the door, he was dumbfounded. The man in front of him looked like he had rickets, with a yellow and thin face, as if he hadn't eaten enough for a few days. "May I ask who you're looking for?" Li Tianming looked at the bangs that suddenly pushed open the door and looked surprised. "I have nothing to do with the people in the courtyard, why is someone coming to my door now? Are you Li Tianming?" Li Tianming nodded silently, then saw Lu Haizhong rushing forward and snatching the broom from Li Tianming's hand. With a smile, he began to clean, muttering incessantly. "Oh, how could you do these rough jobs? Since we are all people in the same courtyard, we naturally need to help each other. My name is Lu Haizhong and I live in our backyard. If you have any questions, just let me know. I dare not say anything else. With me covering you, there is no one in our courtyard who dares to bully you." Upon hearing the other party report their home door, Li Tianming pondered in his heart, only then did he realize why they had brought it to his door. "I thought I was a distant relative of a certain leader who was specially taken care of. I came in and wanted to climb up with this tall branch." However, since someone helped him clean up, Li Tianming didn't explain much. Seeing Li Tianming standing there motionless, Lu Haizhong cleaned up for a moment before cautiously speaking, "Comrade Tianming, may I ask what your relationship with our Military Control Committee is?" Lu Haizhong was also beating drums in his heart, and he didn't look like a relative of a big leader. "The Military Control Commission." Li Tianming pretended to have a thoughtful expression and then showed a pure smile on his face, saying, "Master, you misunderstood. I am just a poor boy who fled from Hebei province. Can I have any connection with the leader of the Military Control Commission? But now the rescue station is full, and the leaders of the Military Control Committee saw that I was pitiful, so they specifically arranged for me to come in." As soon as Li Tianming finished speaking, he saw the bangs slamming the broom onto the ground, and his smile instantly stiffened. "Li Tianming, there is still some work in my backyard that I haven't done well. You should be busy for now, and I will go back. Look at this dirty and messy place. You need to clean it up well, and don't let our courtyard lose face." Later, Lu Haizhong went out with an unlucky face. He thought it was a tall branch, but unexpectedly it was a ground beetle. "Oh, Master Lu, why are you coming out with such a disheveled face? Don't talk to your comrades for a while longer," said the person at the door, dumbfounded and smiling. He has been washing dishes in the courtyard all along, so naturally he has shown Li Tianming's background thoroughly. Seeing the mocking expression on Silly Zhu's face, Lu Haizhong looked indignant and said, "Stupid, you have to brush the bowl well, otherwise you won't even have the qualifications to become an apprentice in the future." "Master Lu, there's no need for you to worry. My father has already arranged for me to become an apprentice at the steel rolling mill in the coming year," said Silly Zhu happily. "Hey, I'm talking about you, kid." Lu Haizhong had a look of distress on his face. "What's going on today? Why are you hitting walls everywhere?" In the room, Li Tianming continued to clean up, and he had no other thoughts about Lu Haizhong's hospitality. The arrest of enemy agents by oneself must not be known to these people in the courtyard. Firstly, it does not provide any practical assistance to oneself. More importantly, there are still many enemy agents lurking everywhere, and no one knows where they are. Perhaps even those lurking in their courtyard may have enemy agents, which could cause trouble for oneself. As dusk approaches and a cold wind suddenly rises outside, it is impossible to go out and purchase supplies today. Li Tianming cut some branches from the surrounding area and set up a heated kong at home, preparing to endure the night at home and then go out to buy bedding tomorrow. As the heated kong gradually heated up, Li Tianming sat cross-legged on the kong, closing his eyes to rest his mind. Just as I was about to take out some spiritual spring water from the space to drink, I heard the sound of the system in my mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host for unlocking the achievement, Pianinijiao. The system space has been opened. Upon hearing the voice in his mind, before Li Tianming could react in any way, he felt a sudden gust of wind and his mind was in chaos. When he opened his eyes again, everything in front of him changed. "Where is this?" Li Tianming looked around in confusion and saw that the surroundings were pitch black like ink. In front of oneself, there is only one watery spring, clear and transparent. The spring water flowing from the nearby spring has converged into a huge pond, emitting a misty atmosphere. Seeing the familiar spring water, Li Tianming realized that he had entered the system space. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 5. Jia Dongxu's blind date, silly pillar smashing the door. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Surprisingly arrived in the system space, Li Tianming looked puzzled, as if he had not fully understood the function of this system. Looking at the clear spring water in front of him, Li Tianming jumped up directly. With just a splash, the whole person jumped in. Ah! The comfortable feeling made Li Tianming couldn't help but take a deep breath. Although it was freezing outside, he couldn't feel any coolness in the spring water, but rather an extremely comfortable feeling. After soaking in the spring water all night, Li Tianming felt as if his body had become much stronger and his whole body was full of strength. The next day, just as it was dawn, Li Tianming withdrew from space. Seeing that he could freely enter and exit the space, Li Tianming nodded with satisfaction. With the existence of this system space, as for the living environment, it no longer matters to him. At this time, it is still early and there are hardly any people waking up in the courtyard. Plus, today is also the weekend, not many people go to work, so the yard is particularly peaceful. However, this was exactly what he wanted. He locked the door tightly, took his only 100,000 yuan, and Li Tianming quietly slipped out. There are quite a few things to purchase today, including pots, pans, ladles, tables, chairs, and benches. We have to dress up this small house to look like a home, as well as an iron pot for stir-frying. No matter how good his cooking is, it's useless without an iron pot. He doesn't want to suffer from the cold and hunger like he did yesterday. Come on, Huairu, come on. Not long after Li Tianming left, the sky gradually brightened up. Then there was a commotion in the courtyard, and a matchmaker pulled a beautiful girl to the courtyard. Today, Jia Dongxu is dressed exceptionally exquisitely, dressed in a new winter outfit, appearing full of vitality. Huairu, this is Jia Dongxu whom I introduce to you. He is a serious urban person who works in a steel rolling mill. The matchmaker took Qin Huairu's hand and came to Jia Dongxu. Hello, my name is Jia Dongxu. Seeing such a beautiful girl, Jia Dongxu stuttered. Silly Zhu, who was in the same courtyard, heard the commotion and walked out. As soon as I left, I saw the figure of Qin Huairu. The enamel jar in my hand fell to the ground with a loud bang. Everyone looked at Silly Zhu, but Silly Zhu didn't care to pick up the enamel jar that had fallen from the ground and stared closely at Qin Huairu. Suddenly, it aroused the dissatisfaction of Jia and Zhang. Silly pillar, what are you looking at? Then I'll dig out your eyes. Then she turned to Jia Dongxu and said, Dongxu, why don't you quickly lead the girl into the room? Seeing the Zhang family of Qinhuai Jia, she was overjoyed. Originally, Lao Jia had passed away and had no choice but to marry a rural girl. I didn't expect this girl to be so beautiful, and her figure is also good. Her buttocks are big, and she looks like she can have a son. The key is that the dowry for rural girls doesn't have to be too high, it's a perfect candidate. In the room, Qin Huairu looked at Jia Dongxu with a white-faced scholar's expression, and the two of them chatted happily. After a moment, Jia Zhang and the media walked in. Jia Zhang said, Huairu, our family can offer a dowry of 50,000 yuan. Please see if it's suitable. If it's suitable, let's finalize this matter first. Since the death of Lao Jia, the Jia family has lost half of their sky. It is most important to finalize the marriage as soon as possible. Upon hearing Jia Zhang's words, Qin Huairu immediately stood up with a smile on her face and said, I don't care if there is a dowry or not, but when I get married, I have to live in a house with Jia Dongxu. As long as I have a house, even a dowry of 20,000 yuan is enough. Oh my, good girl, we have plenty of houses in our family. Upon hearing these words, Jia Zhang felt as if he had picked up a treasure, and his face immediately burst into a brilliant smile. Taking Qin Huairu's hand, he walked outside and pointed to Li Tianming's room, saying, Look, isn't this a ready-made house? When you get married later, you and Jia Dongxu will sleep in our same room. I'll move in, old lady. I won't cause any trouble for the two of you. It's better for you to have 2 in a year and 3 in 2 years. Upon hearing Jia Zhang's words, Qin Huairu also looked shy and then looked at the door of the room, saying, Auntie, can I see what this house looks like? When he was at home, the parents of the Qin family were always reminding and admonishing him many times, coming to the city is to enjoy happiness. If the family conditions are as poor as those in the countryside, wouldn't you become a refugee? Okay. I didn't expect this rural girl to have such rules. Jia Zhang was about to open the door, but found that it had been tightly locked by Li Tianming. Then he shouted to the silly pillar in the courtyard, Pillar, come help me break open the door. Break it open. Auntie, isn't this your own house? Why don't you have a key? Jia Zhang smiled and waved her hand, this house has been in disrepair for a long time. If I had left it somewhere long ago, don't worry. As long as you get married, I will definitely arrange it for you properly. Silly pillar, what are you doing? Didn't you hear me? Jia Zhang shouted again. Hey, why should I break through Li Tianming's door for you? If something happens, you can carry it for me. Silly Zhu is not foolish either. Yesterday, he saw his military brother bring Li Tianming over with his own eyes. If something happens, he can't afford it. At this moment, Qinhuai next to her spoke coquettishly, Pillar, can you do me a favor? I really want to go in and take a look. Qin Huairu, who had not yet married into the Jia family, had already begun to use her own advantages to earn some profits. As expected, Silly Zhu was immediately confused upon hearing these words. He found a handy stone and smashed it into the lock. Qin Huairu pushed open the door and looked at the room that Li Tianming had already cleaned in front of her, which was shining brightly. She couldn't help but nod. There are no traces of anyone living around, and it seems that the Jia family's house is not bad. How are you? I didn't lie to you, did I? Jia Zhang's heart was overjoyed. If it weren't for Li Tianming helping him tidy up, it would have been really difficult to deal with this girl today. Just as the two were chatting passionately, in the distance, Li Tianming pushed a small cart filled with daily necessities, followed by Comrade Zhou Zhang from the Military Control Commission. The two were chatting haphazardly, and after a moment, they had arrived at the entrance of the courtyard. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 6. Let Li Tianming live in a donkey pen. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Comrade Li Tianming, are you still comfortable living in the courtyard? Feel free to ask for any needs and don't have any concerns. Zhou Zhang looked at the young man in front of him and liked him more and more. I gave him 100,000 yuan myself, but the other party didn't squander or waste it, just bought some necessities of life. I saw Li Tianming's figure again at the market just now. Because the other party bought too many things, Zhou Zhang helped guarantee the loan of a cart and brought it back. Faced with Zhou Zhang's politeness, Li Tianming was genuinely grateful. Assisting in capturing enemy agents on his own was completely accidental. If he were healthy, he might have avoided them a bit, but he didn't expect them to still treat him like this. Captain Zhou, there's no need to trouble anything. In the afternoon, I'm going out to find some manual labor to do, and I'll try my best to be self-sufficient as soon as possible and not disappoint your expectations. Captain Zhou, why don't you stay here? I'll use a small cart to put the things in the room and deliver them to you immediately. There are many people in the courtyard with mixed eyes. You entered wearing a military uniform, so as not to scare the neighbors. I hope you don't take it amiss. Zhou Zhang nodded, not expecting the boy in front of him to be so thoughtful. Li Tianming had just pushed a small cart into the door when he saw Yan Buguiting standing out. Oh, isn't it dawn? I haven't seen anyone since early this morning, and I thought you went to the rescue station to receive relief. Yan Bugui looked at what was in front of him and reached out to take 2 items. Li Tianming naturally knew the other person's thoughts and quickly took a few steps. As he walked, he said, those who receive relief are all responsible for the elderly, weak, sick, and children. We, strong young and middle-aged people, still need to rely on self-sufficiency. Don't think about taking advantage of others every day. Thank you for being a teacher. Have you never heard of the truth that pursuing small profits is difficult to achieve great things, even if money is lost early? Hey! You kid! After Li Tianming scolded him, Yan Bugui was furious. However, he could no longer keep up with the other party's figure. Seeing them cross the lotus gate to the courtyard, Yan Bugui's face wore a hint of sneer. He also knew about Jia Dongxu's blind date today. When the matchmaker passed by his door, he even gave him a red handkerchief. He could also hear the sound of silly pillar smashing the door just now. At this moment, he was a helpless fugitive boy. What kind of ability does he have? Li Tianming pushed the small cart and kept shouting, "Get out of the way, get out of the way." Although the people in the courtyard are all beasts, if they really bump into someone, with their deceitful behavior, it may also cause him a headache. Pushing the small cart, Li Tianming walked directly to his doorstep. As soon as he arrived at the door, Li Tianming was about to take out the key when he found that his door lock had disappeared and had been smashed onto the ground. His eyebrows furrowed. When he went out, he was clearly locked tightly, but could he have become a thief? Blocking the small cart tightly at the door, he wanted to see how these clumsy thieves could escape. After stepping into the room, I found that the 2 of the Jia family were chatting happily with silly Zhu and a pretty girl, and I didn't even notice her entering the room. Cough cough. Li Tianming coughed twice. Qin Huairu, who came from a rural background, was the first to react and looked at Li Tianming, asking, "Auntie, who is he?" Jia Zhang glared at Li Tianming with a heartfelt gaze, then pulled Qin Huairu and continued, "Don't worry about him. Huairu, listen to me. As long as you marry into our Jia family, we will buy you a sewing machine, so that you can enjoy your happiness at home with peace of mind. Please go out." Li Tianming said coldly. If it weren't for not wanting Captain Zhou to wait outside for too long, he might have just escalated this matter. Now he only hopes that the other party can obediently leave the room and not cause trouble for him again. Big brother, who exactly is she? Why is she speaking so impolitely? Qin Huairu asked timidly beside her. Jia Zhang, on the other hand, looked disdainful and said, "He's just a stinky kid who fled from the 49 cities. There aren't many people at home to take care of him, and I don't know how he managed to get the favor of the Military Control Committee, which is why he was arranged to our courtyard. Since it has been arranged in the courtyard, this house belongs to me. I'll give you a final warning, please go out," Li Tianming warned again. "Why don't we go out?" Qin Huairu said timidly. After all, it was arranged by the Military Control Commission, and he couldn't provoke such a force, let alone after being soaked in the spiritual spring overnight. At this time, Li Tianming had completely lost his weak appearance and his muscles were already extremely developed. Jia Zhang glanced at Qin Huairu and said, "Don't be afraid." Then he walked up to Li Tianming. Li what? Li Tianming, right. After all the people in our courtyard discussed and unanimously decided to move your house to the ear room of the backyard mansion, please move things over now. Jia Zhang waved her hand, looking disdainful. Upon hearing Jia Zhang mention the ear chambers in the backyard, the silly pillar behind him burst into laughter, the ear room in the backyard. Isn't that modified from a donkey pen? What's wrong with the donkey pen? As a person who fled from the river province, where else do you want to live? If there is a place to live, it would be good. Jia Zhang sneered at Li Tianming. Seeing his appearance, Li Tianming smiled. "I escaped from my hometown and ended up living in a donkey pen. P.S. A new book by a young author, absolutely decisive and satisfying to read. With the footsteps of the times, I have made great strides and made my own career. I also hope that everyone can support me, vote for reviews, flowers, and thank you all. Thank you Qinming outing in happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 7. Fan shatters Jia Zhang's family, breaking Yi Zhonghai. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As Jia Zhang's voice fell, Li Tianming slowly turned his head and saw the other person's appearance. Jia Zhang actually chuckled, and what Yi Zhonghai said was indeed good. Although it was brought over by the Military Control Commission, after all, it was also a refugee from the river province, with no background or support. He was also a young man with little ability and could only be played tricks on in the courtyard. Later, Jia Zhang turned her head to look at Qin Huairu and said, "Huairu, when you get married in the future, you don't have to be afraid. After all, some people in our courtyard are not serious city dwellers at all. Many times they flee from all over the country, and their identities are completely incomparable to those of our Dongxu family." Jia Zhang was still proudly speaking, but he heard Jia Dongxu behind him shouting loudly, "Mom, you quickly dodge. Li Tianming is going to take action against you." "What? Hands on. He dares." At this moment, Jia Zhang was feeling proud, and it was a great opportunity for Li Tianming to establish authority in front of his daughter.in.law. How could he be willing to waste it? Just as he turned his head, he saw Li Tianming tightly gripping his arm, his muscles tense, and his face still light and airy. Then he swung his arm wide and mercilessly slapped the other person in the face. Accompanied by a crisp slap, everyone's hearts couldn't help but tremble. Jia Zhang's body was shaken by the slap, and he lost balance, falling straight back. Mom! Mom! Jia Dongxu rushed forward frantically. He had already lost a father, and if he didn't have his mother again, he would have become a helpless orphan among other people. I saw that Jia Zhang's mouth was constantly bleeding, with a painful expression on her face. Master, master, come and save my mother. Jia Dongxu shouted loudly outside, afraid that if it was too late, Jia Zhang would lose her life. What is the situation? Zhonghai, who had been paying attention to Li Tianming, rushed out of the room when he heard Jia Dongxu's shout. I originally saw Li Tianming pushing a small cart alone, bringing back daily necessities, and he breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. After all, there hasn't been much movement among the members of the Military Control Commission. As long as they don't get involved in this matter and rely on their prestige in the courtyard, coupled with Jia Zhang's reckless efforts, it's not an easy task to force an orphan who came to flee. I didn't expect Li Tianming to make such a big noise just a few minutes after entering. When Zhonghai came in, he saw Jia Zhang with a painful expression on his face. He quickly looked up at Silly Zhu and asked, Zhu, what's the situation? At this moment, Silly Zhu was huddled in the corner of the house with Qin Huairu. Qin Huairu had a delicate expression on her face, which made 16-year-old Silly Zhu look pitiful and stood in front of Qin Huairu to protect her. Before Silly Zhu could speak, he heard Jia Dongxu's voice coming from him. Master Yi, haven't you noticed this yet? Li Tianming, this kid, is attacking people. He wants to rebel. Call the police quickly, arrest this kid, and get him out of our courtyard. Seeing the arrival of Zhonghai, Jia Zhang also had a backbone. Upon hearing Jia Dongxu speak, Li Tianming lifted his head and gave him a glare. He was immediately frightened and the other person's legs and feet softened a bit. He plopped and sat on the ground. Seeing this, Li Tianming couldn't help but let out a sigh and whispered, a spineless thing. Seeing the fear on Jia Dongxu's face, Zhonghai, the master, also had no luster on his face. He quickly angrily rebuked in a low voice, what's the point of panic? What scenes have we never seen in these years? Then he looked at Li Tianming and said, Comrade Li Tianming, I know you have some connection with the people of the Military Control Commission, but we cannot use force to attack people, do you think so? Hearing Zhonghai's taunt, Li Tianming smiled blandly. It's a dog, it's a man, not you, Zhonghai the final say. Calling you Master Yi is polite to you. If you want to do something wrong in this courtyard, be careful that I report it to the Military Control Commission. Also, you are limited to 3 minutes to get out of my room with your dog, otherwise you will bear the consequences. You. Zhonghai was scolded by the other party and had no temper at all. He pointed at Li Tianming's nose and was so angry that he couldn't speak. With a click. Only a crisp sound was heard, and suddenly Zhonghai let out a mournful cry. The finger that had just been used to point at Li Tianming was instantly broken, and the immense pain twisted his face a bit. However, Li Tianming still had a cold expression on his face and said, I hate people pointing at me. Folding your finger is a lesson. Others may not know Li Tianming's background, but Li Tianming has a deep understanding of these people in the courtyard. Yan Bugui in the front yard usually only likes to take advantage of small things, and can't be considered a big deal. But there is hardly any good thing in this courtyard, such as the rampant Jia Zhang family, the morally kidnapped Zhonghai, and even the foolish pillars who will be used in the future. Li Tianming shows no mercy towards them, let alone truly violating his own bottom line this time. Seeing Zhonghai scream in pain, Silly Zhu, who was hiding in the corner, slowly walked out and whispered, Tianming, can I go out? Li Tianming nodded, unaware that it was a foolish pillar who smashed open the door. Since the other party did not provoke him, he naturally did not need to stand up against enemies everywhere. As soon as Silly Zhu walked out, he heard Zhonghai say to him. Pillar, go call the police quickly. As soon as Zhonghai's voice fell, he heard an incredibly thick male voice coming from outside. I heard someone is going to report to the police. P.S. A new book by a young author, absolutely decisive and satisfying to read. With the footsteps of the times, I have made great strides and made my own career. I also hope that everyone can support me, vote for reviews, flowers, and thank you all. Thank you Qinming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 8. Knocking the mountain and shocking the tiger, scaring the Meng Zhonghai. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Upon hearing the rich voice, Silly Zhu's footsteps also froze in place. Two men in military uniforms caught the eye, carrying guns behind the security guard. Captain Zhou, you're here. Li Tianming scratched his head awkwardly and continued, there was a small incident at home that made you wait outside for a long time. I'll clear the small cart and send it to you. Not busy, not busy. Zhou Zheng waved his hand and continued, didn't I tell you? If you encounter any difficulties in the courtyard, you must come to me to report. As a member of the Military Control Commission, Zhou Zheng also knew that with the influx of a large number of refugees during this period, these elderly people who originally lived in the 49 cities would inevitably feel dissatisfied and reject these refugees. Yesterday, Brother Bing, who arranged accommodation for Li Tianming, went back and recounted the things he had encountered in the courtyard. Zhou Zheng came this time to see how Li Tianming's living conditions were. Did you call the police just now? Zhou Zheng's gaze rested on Silly Zhu. The other party's weathered demeanor, with a glance pressing down on Silly Zhu, immediately stood in place in fear and shook his head. Fortunately, at this moment, He Daqing from the middle courtyard quickly ran over, grabbed and dragged towards his own house, saying as he walked, "This military master, my child was injured in the brain when he was young, and his brain is not very useful. We all call him a silly pillar. Sometimes he talks nonsense, so don't take it for granted." Seeing He Daqing holding on to his own child, Zhou Zheng didn't stop him too much. He just waved his hand to signal the other person to step back, and then looked at Zhonghai, who was constantly tugging at his finger, and asked, "Did you just report it to the police?" Zhonghai quickly nodded. "Yes, it's me. This kid just came to our courtyard yesterday and today, with the support of someone from his own military control committee, he is committing atrocities in our courtyard. This military lord, look at how even his own neighbors have been beaten up like this. You are the blue sky lord who maintains our order and stability. If we let people do evil, what will happen in the future?" Zhou Zheng followed Zhonghai's gaze and looked at Jia Dongxu, only to see that the other person was holding the corners of their mouth and constantly pouring blood, wanting to say something, but their face became grim due to pain. Seeing such a tragic appearance, Zhou Zheng couldn't help but frown. He didn't see that the kid in front of him was so ruthless, which was somewhat extraordinary. When I first met the other person yesterday, he was very polite and behaved in everything he did. I thought he was a gentle sheep that could be slaughtered, but I didn't expect that beneath this layer of sheepskin, there were all sharp steel blades hidden. However, it's also good. In this era, there is not a bit of ruthlessness, and sooner or later people will play with it. Thinking of this, Zhou Zheng's appreciation for Li Tianming increased a bit. "Did you do this?" Li Tianming scratched his head awkwardly and said, "There's nothing I can do. The house that was registered and distributed to me by our Military Control Commission was forcibly occupied by the Jia family, and they even asked me to live in the donkey pen in the backyard. I believe no young man with blood will be willing to do so. However, every time I think of Captain Zhou fighting on the front line, not to mention the pigsty, it's very difficult to even eat a frozen potato. I feel very sad, but now that things are getting better, some people are starting to want to stand on their own and make some 1.1 decisions in the courtyard. This is completely disrespectful to the hard work of the frontline soldiers. Master E, do you think so?" Zhonghai listened to Li Tianming's words and gritted his upper and lower teeth, his whole body trembling. Li Tianming's words not only pierced the heart, but also potentially lead to murder. I saw a forced smile on his face and said, "Comrade Tianming, what are you saying? Now that the whole country has been liberated, we must listen to the government and the leadership. There can be no such absurd ideas." Humph. Zhou Zhang coldly glanced at Zhonghai. He knew that as the local leader in the courtyard, without Zhonghai's secret instructions, no one could have done such a ridiculous thing in this courtyard. "Alright, don't bring up this matter again. Regarding Comrade Li Tianming's allocation to this courtyard, we have obtained approval from our superiors. If you have any opinions, you can go to the Military Control Commission to raise them. Tianming, hurry up and tidy up your house. I'll have the security guard take your small cart back." Li Tianming nodded and used Zhou Zhang's name to strike. These beasts had already achieved his goal, and as for the deserved punishment, these people also deserved it. I saw Li Tianming putting pots and pans into the room. Just as he turned his head, he heard a crackling sound. Looking back, Jia Zhang was vigorously throwing pots and bowls. Seeing Li Tianming turn around, the whole person rushed over and said, "Lose money, beat me up like this, you must lose money. Don't think that relying on the members of the Military Control Commission can save you from losing money. I'll tell you, if there's not 1,000,000, I'll die in your room. I'll see who else can stay in this room." Seeing that due to Li Tianming's reasons, the matter of his son's blind date was about to be ruined, Jia Zhang didn't care much about it anymore. He played his rolling and throwing move on the ground again. When he saw that Li Tianming was about to take action, he was stopped by Zhou Zhang. "At dawn, we don't allow unauthorized fights and brawls. Let me handle these matters." Then he turned to the police officer and said, "Xiao Wang, take this old lady back." P.S. A new book by a young author, absolutely decisive and satisfying to read. With the footsteps of the times, I have made great strides and made my own career. I also hope that everyone can support me, vote for reviews, flowers, and thank you all. Thank you Qinming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 9. Take away Jia Zhang and arrest the deaf old lady. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yes. The security guard standing deep in front of Zhou Zhang walked out expressionlessly, then dragged Jia and Zhang towards the door. "Let go of me, let go of me." Jia Zhang was still howling incessantly, and his hands were even more open and clawing. With a growl, the clothes on the guard's body were suddenly cut open, and a bright red blood mark was directly printed on the other person's body. "Be honest, don't move," the security guard shouted loudly. These security guards, who have all experienced life and death on the battlefield, seem to have no deterrence in this courtyard. They only saw that Jia Zhang did not retreat at all, and even grabbed and scratched directly at the security guard. "Junyi, I think we should let Jia Zhang go, right? He's just an old lady with little culture. Your adult has a lot of knowledge, so why bother to have the same opinion as him?" Zhonghai beside him couldn't help but speak up. As soon as he finished speaking, he heard a bang. The security guard picked up the gun in his hand and fired a shot directly into the sky. The sudden loud noise made people's ears tingle, and everyone suddenly stayed in place. After a moment, Qin Huairu and a distant aunt, as well as Jia Zhangshi, waited for the screams of the women to suddenly sound. Zhonghai also had a look of fear on his face, and it was only then that he felt how close death was to him. The head of the family. The head of the family. Are you okay? After a moment of rest, an old lady quickly ran over from a distance, nervously looking at Zhonghai. After a moment, Zhonghai finally regained his senses and quickly grabbed the hand of an old lady, saying, "Go to the backyard and invite the old lady out. If he doesn't come again, our courtyard will be in chaos. The old lady quickly nodded and ran to the backyard. Is there anything else to say? The guard stared at the crowd with a ruthless gaze on his face. Jia Zhang had already calmed down and stood trembling in place, afraid to make any further movements. Let's go. The security guard kicked Jia Zhang, as he was not from the police station and could not have carried handcuffs and ankle chains with him. But in order to cope with unexpected situations, as a security guard, the long gun in his hand is far more convincing than handcuffs and ankle chains. Over here, Jia Zhang has just stepped out of the door. He saw the deaf old lady in the backyard leaning on a cane and trembling as she walked in. Li Tianming looked at him, and this was the first time he had seen the deaf old lady in the backyard, the Qinhuai divine needle in the courtyard. At this time, the deaf old lady was almost 60 years old, and time had left many marks on his face. Just as I arrived at the courtyard, I heard her say, "Who, such a great authority, is going to take people away from our quadrangle?" Li Tianming glanced at him with a disdainful expression on his face. This old man claimed to have woven shoes for the Red Army during the war before moving into the courtyard. He claimed to be the ancestor of the courtyard, and even the people from the military headquarters would give him a thin face when they saw him. However, according to Li Tianming's understanding, in television, at 65 years old, the deaf old lady was already over 70 years old and still had to eat good food and meat all day, even taking great risks to resell food vouchers. This behavior is extremely abnormal. A person has lived for a lifetime and has never eaten anything before. Why do you need to be so particular when you bury yourself? Unless he used to be used to eating good food, that's why he can't eat coarse grains now. In addition, he is almost 60 years old this year and has gone through multiple periods such as the end of the Qin dynasty, Japanese occupation, national war, and liberation. His identity is already unclear, and even enemy spies may not be clear. Zhong watched as the deaf old lady came out, with no expression on his face. When he saw the security guard stop, he immediately scolded, "Have you forgotten all the discipline you learned in the army? Military orders are like a mountain. How could you stop and go back to write a 3,000-word review?" Yes. The security guard saluted and then stepped out of the door, suppressing Jia and Zhang. "Oh my goodness, it's unreasonable. You soldiers just pushed people out at will. What's the difference between you and the previous gang of bandits?" Before Zhong could speak, he heard Li Tianming immediately say, "Madam, do you still know about the bandits?" Although I didn't know what Li Tianming meant, Zhong didn't interrupt. When the old lady heard Li Tianming's question, she looked disdainful and said, "I just heard from Zhonghai that there was a stinky beggar in our courtyard, and I didn't expect it to be you." Back then, the Eight-Nation Alliance. The deaf old lady was interrupted by Li Tianming before she could finish speaking. "Captain Zhou, I suspect that this old lady may be an enemy spy. Please take her back for a detailed investigation." "What, take me back for a detailed investigation? Bunny, what are you talking about? I made shoes for the Red Army back then, and when I sent food to frontline soldiers, you were still unborn in your mother's womb." The deaf old lady was holding a cane, with an angry expression on her face, and was about to smash it at Li Tianming. Unexpectedly, he was easily dodged by the other party, and then smiled and said, "I don't know which army, which class number, and what kind of shoes did you give to? In which village, which town, and which front line did you send food to? This. The deaf old lady was momentarily speechless. Seeing his appearance, Li Tianming turned his head and said to Zhong, "Captain Zhou, there are many enemy spies who have been infiltrated by external forces early on. They are lurking in our various courtyards, constantly preparing for a counterattack. I personally think the deaf old lady is very suspected of being an enemy spy. Please take him back and interrogate him carefully." At this moment, there was finally a slight change on Zhong's face. After thinking for a moment, he only saw Zhou Zheng pulling out the matching pistol from his waist, aiming at the deaf old lady's head. He said, "Comrade, please come with me." The deaf old lady has always claimed to the Military Control Commission that she has made great contributions to the war, and some people in the Military Control Commission know his name. Taking him back like this, Zhou Zheng also faced great pressure. However, we still adhere to the principle of killing a group by mistake rather than letting one go, and we must take the deaf old lady back for careful questioning. P.S. A new book by a young author, absolutely decisive and satisfying to read. With the footsteps of the times, I have made great strides and made my own career. I also hope that everyone can support me, vote for reviews, flowers, and thank you all. Thank you Qinming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 10. Qin Huairu runs away and the deaf old lady is taken away. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing Captain Zhou pull out his gun again, no one in the courtyard dared to move, even the arrogant and domineering deaf old lady's eyes flashed with a hint of fear, but her words remained firm as she said, "I know Yang, a member of your Military Control Commission. Be careful not to make any big mistakes or make meritorious contributions. Are you threatening me?" With a click, Zhou moved the insurance with a cold frost on his face, as if the cold light in his eyes was about to kill someone. Seeing this, Zhonghai ignored the pain in his hands and rushed over, blocking the deaf old lady. "Comrade, don't be impulsive." Then he turned his head to look at the old lady and said urgently, "Deaf old lady, why don't you follow along?" Okay, you Zhonghai." Seeing Zhonghai also come to persuade her to go to the Military Control Commission for review, the deaf old lady was so angry that she threw her cane straight to the ground. However, Zhou Zheng didn't get used to him, so he pulled her over and reminded Li Tianming, don't forget to send the small cart back to him. Ah. Li Tianming nodded. Although the small cart is small, it was guaranteed by Zhou Zheng. Since the people have such trust in our army, it is impossible to make them feel cold. The people who saw the Military Control Commission took Jia Zhang and the deaf old lady away, and the matchmaker and Qin Huairu who had just been sidelined also walked over. Qin Huairu gave a glance to the matchmaker and saw him quickly approaching, saying to Jia Dongxu, "You've seen this kind of trouble happening in your family. You'd better settle your own family matters first. If there's a suitable one later, Auntie will help you find one." "Auntie, it's not possible. I'm just interested in Qin Huairu. He's a rural girl and there's nothing else to choose from." Jia Dongxu didn't care about Jia Zhang, who was being escorted away, and said urgently. Then he grabbed Zhonghai's sleeve and refused to let go. "Master, please help me speak up." Zhonghai held the finger that had been broken by Li Tianming, with a painful expression on his face. However, regarding the marriage of his disciple, he endured the pain and said, "Mrs. Wang, although our Dongxu family is missing a house, after all, she is also from the city. Qin Huairu's marriage is not a loss. Let's do it this way. I'll take out 100,000 yuan and treat it as Jia Dongxu's dowry. Today, let's finalize the marriage and find a good time to let the two children get married." Jia Dongxu nodded repeatedly while listening. Right, that's it." Qin Huairu hid behind the matchmaker and secretly tugged at his clothes, so the matchmaker knew what the other person meant. Seeing Zhonghai pleading for him, the matchmaker said coldly, "Master it's not me who said it. If the Jia family didn't cause today's incident, it's okay. Now that Jia Zhang has been taken away by the Military Control Committee, who knows when Jia Zhang will be released these days. Our Qin Huairu is a famous beauty from all over the country. No matter how poor she is, she cannot marry an orphan, do you think so? Besides, the Jia family's relentless efforts to seize someone else's house have been evident to us all today. If Huairu really gets married, she may have to endure a lot of hardships. Huairu, let's go." After speaking, he pulled Qin Huairu and walked out directly. Zhonghai wanted to stop behind and shouted a few times, but didn't know what to say. Jia Dongxu also had a painful expression on his face. Such a beautiful beauty could only be achieved after several lifetimes of self-cultivation. I only heard him continue to hold on to Zhonghai and say, "Master, go and see my mother quickly. Let the people of the Military Control Commission release her as soon as possible, and don't delay my marriage." Fuck you. Rao was a person like Zhonghai, who was famous for his appearance as a gentleman in the courtyard. At this moment, he couldn't help but burst out in a foul language. The life or death of Jia Zhang has nothing to do with me. I knew I had to go to the hospital again, and if I were to delay, I wouldn't be able to keep my fingers. After speaking, Zhonghai rushed out directly. Hey, master, wait for me. Jia Dongxu quickly followed behind. As Li Tianming was constantly tinkering with the furniture at home, the silly pillar leaned over and said with a smile, "Li Tianming, do you need me to help you move things?" Faced with silly Zhu's sudden kindness, Li Tianming seemed to have not heard him. He arranged the things in the room in 3 or 2 steps and then closed the door. Turning to look at silly Zhu, he said, "I'm going to deliver the small cart now. When I come back, I hope to see a new lock and key. If there is any change in the things at home, you should know the consequences." Faced with Li Tianming's blatant threat, silly Zhu was about to scold him when he saw the other person's sharp gaze and immediately softened. After Li Tianming left, silly Zhu muttered softly, "Cut, what's that?" Then he shouted towards his own home in the courtyard, "Dad, I'll go out and buy something. When I come back, you help me keep an eye on Li Tianming's house and don't let anyone enter casually." After speaking, he jogged out. This is not that he is cowardly, but that he is really a bit afraid. Others may have some concerns when fighting, but Li Tianming is really playing hard. Every time you make a move, you don't consider the consequences at all, nor do you care about your identity. More importantly, judging from the situation where the opponent just took action, he is really not an opponent. P.S. A new book by the author, absolutely decisive and satisfying. I will never let the birds in the courtyard dare to provoke or leave a mark on me. I also hope that everyone can support me, vote for reviews, flowers, thank you all, thank you all. Qinming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th.